Welcome to the tokenmarket.net podcast. I am your host, Gavin Knight. Thank you for tuning in. Check out our site for digital asset research, a calendar of upcoming events, and many future upcoming releases. Our podcast features team members of projects in the cryptocurrency space to help shed light on their developments. Just because a project is on our podcast doesn't mean we recommend investment, so always research and engage wisely. I'm here with Clay Space, founder and creative director of Back to Earth. You can find out more information about the project at backto.earth. So why don't you tell me about how this project got started and what's the basic concept behind Back to Earth?
Yeah, so basically the project got started because Hollywood is kind of going through this change in structure. The current distribution models that have worked in the past are kind of no longer working as Netflix comes in, as audiences stop watching cable television, they stop watching shows like CBS and ABC, and they stop going to the movie theaters. And so what's happening is film productions are having to get more and more creative in the ways in which they monetize their production because they can no longer rely on theatrical sales, DVD sales, and kind of that back end that they used to be able to rely on in the past. And so one way that they've begun to try to fix that, if you look at Marvel, is they create what is called Transmedia, where they have not just their film, but they have a comic books, they have the action figures, they have TV shows, they have all sorts of other things that kind of create a brand around their story. And so what Back to Earth is we are taking a transmedia approach, kind of like what Marvel does, and we're adding a blockchain-based token that fuels the whole experience and kind of creates a completely new form of storytelling by using this token that's able to actually change the story in real time and give it a kind of a game element that hasn't really been seen before.
Yeah, I've noticed just yesterday I was watching a series on HBO, but Netflix and Hulu and a lot of other projects or companies that aren't traditional movie production companies or TV stations are now funding their independent. And so this is just sort of a different way to look at it. So funding the production through crypto and also integrating it into the show, the series. So the ICO is for the StarCredits token, which is part of Back to Earth. Can you tell us what the value of the token is and how it works within this production?
Yeah, so the Star Credit serves both a purpose as a storytelling device and also as a sort of game token that allows you to interact with the story and change it in real time, or unlock special rewards or find hidden content. But it also is integral in the telling of the story, in that the characters, the story itself actually revolves around the telling or the use of star credits. In this world, star credits are used by the characters to achieve their own objectives as well. And so whenever you interact, as far as the game mechanics or the mechanics of the token goes, whenever you interact with our story, then we take those star credits and we destroy them. So there's basically this decreasing supply of star credits over the course of time when people interact with our content and with our narrative.
Right. So I've seen a lot of different models, and I think this is interesting. And I won't name names of other projects, but the token actually participates in the story and interacts rather than just sort of crowdfunding the development of the series. But how are you going to make a good production? Like, what kind of experience do you have in film and what kind of people do you have behind me? Because I feel like a lot of it rests on how compelling the story is and compelling the content is. So yeah, what plans do you have for your story and production, and what kind of experience and people behind this do you have?
Yeah, so we're a production based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we have two producers currently working on the project who have lots of experience in creating film productions. I'm a SAG-AFTRA actor and an award-winning short story writer. And we're also very fortunate that we've sent, the some of our initial scripts to No Minds Media, which is a transmedia production company based out in California. And they've worked on just some fantastic projects from, I believe, Ford to Game of Thrones, and they also have some award-winning or Emmy award-winning developers on their team and creators. And they've taken a look at our story and they really like it. So they've said that if we can meet our fundraising goal, which is at this point just a minimum of 250 Bitcoin, then they'll be really excited to work with us. And so kind of the the idea is and the reason that we need to use a blockchain-based token and we can't just keep this kind of how it like a game credit that you would get if you were to play something like Fallout or Grand Theft Auto, where you receive in-game credits or tokens that you use to purchase in-game accessories, is the fact that because we're transmedia, you can have a web-based application that can interact with something that's on social media, that may be able to interact with a film element that we create. And we want to be able for your StarCredit token to be able to interact on all three of those mediums and not be able to be replicated or duplicated or fraudulent in some way.
Right. So maybe you can introduce people to the story. So I know you do have an initial script. What exactly is the story, and what kind of audience or people do you think it would appeal to?
Yeah, so the story basically is centered around a new technology that has been created that is inserted into the back of your neck and gives you the ability to overlay the internet onto your surroundings. And so it's basically this VR device that gives you this different connection to the internet. And the problem is that this device gets hacked, and it essentially turns everyone who's using it into these kind of brain dead monsters and causes a fallout in the world. And so the story takes place on kind of two different levels. One is kind of before what's happened to lead up to this fallout, and then what's happened after the fallout. And so our film takes place after the fallout, and we're actually releasing the first episode as a graphic novel sometime next week. And then a lot of the transmedia content, a lot of the social media push, a lot of what we're going to be using to get people to hop in on the story on different mediums is story that takes place kind of before the fallout and kind of revolves around what this chip is, what it does, and kind of the implications of this technology, and specifically kind of how the theme is kind of how technology can be so magical, but also to a point can kind of destroy your privacy and affect you in ways that you would never want.
Growing up, I liked Ghost of the Shell. It came out in 1995, and I know they're doing some type of revamp, but it it had a similar theme, and I did really like that, and I do think we're kind of heading in that direction. I mean, as things get smaller and smaller, they might as well just implant it in our brain. So I think it's interesting because it's. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of research on futurism, and one of my favorite futurists is Ray Kurzweil. He's very much of the mind, and of course a lot of futurists are, that we are reaching this point in the next 20 or 30 years where we will have to become part of our technology in a more intimate way in order to survive, because our technology and its connection with the internet, you look at kind of how artificial intelligence is going, it will surpass our intellect and our abilities. And so the only way really to become competitive with it is to actually become part of it.
Right, and the only compatible currency for this futuristic robotic age will be, Bitcoin. So I'm happy about the potentials. But seriously, let's see. So the crowd sale looks like you're going to do 22% of tokens and some things like that. So what's the idea behind doing a maybe a smaller sale and then having enough tokens later? Why did you choose to do that rather than all one large sale?
Yeah, well, so I've been part of the space for about 3 years now as a trader, and I've noticed that a lot of crowd funds currently are trying to take advantage of the bullishness of the market. They're basically they're putting out all these tokens. Sometimes they don't even attach the token to a specific price. They're just looking to raise as much funds as possible and then distribute the tokens through how much they raise and allow the market to find a value for it there. But the problem that I see is that with a lot of these really large funded projects, their tokens hit the market and they're just too overvalued. There's too many people that have participated in the crowd fund. Everyone owns a piece of it, and then when it hits the market, unfortunately, there's just no demand. There's nobody who wants the token anymore. And so I don't think that's a very good way of protecting people who are actually participating in the crowd fund and who are hopefully going to become, kind of our first sort of fans of the experience. And so instead of distributing all of our tokens at once, we decided that the smartest thing to do would be to distribute a small portion of them and set them at a certain price so that we can only fundraise a maximum of 750 Bitcoin for our first crowdfund. And then also lock up the remainder in smart contracts so that we can't, through nefarious means, dump the remaining tokens on the market and destroy the price that way. And as just as a means of crowdfund participant and protection. And so I do understand also being a trader and being a part of the space that at a certain point in time those tokens will unlock and it could cause some concern in an increase in supply. And so during our first crowdfund, we're also, to protect crowdfund investors, distributing what we're calling golden tickets. And these golden tickets can be used in a future crowdfund to actually receive a portion of just free star credits from a pool of star credits that we set aside for those purposes. And so if you are worried about your token value decreasing when new supply comes in, you will also have these golden tickets to kind of make up for that. And we'll also be structuring a second or third crowdfund in a way that does not hurt the current value of the tokens that people are holding.
Right. So the sale is starting on the 26th of April, and you mentioned to me before that it's based on a referral link. So how can people get this link if they want to participate, and kind of why are you doing it that way?
Yeah, we wanted to run a different crowdfund. We wanted to run something that's a little bit more elusive and a little bit more community driven. And so instead of releasing our crowdfund to everyone, and then kind of hopefully what most people do is taking advantage of FOMO. What we wanted to do is we wanted to release referral links to specific community groups. And so we have our newsletter that will receive referral links, our Back to Earth Telegram community chat will receive referral links, and a few other small groups. And from there, the people who follow those referral links and participate in the crowdfund, they'll receive a referral link of their own. And they can take that and they can share that with other members of their communities. And for every person who participates in the crowdfund through a referral link, the referrer will receive 50 extra star credits. So there's kind of like a fun, different sort of bounty system that hasn't been done before, and we wanted to kind of test the waters with something that's a little bit different, a little bit more geared towards the sort of production that we're going to be running, which is something that does require community engagement and involvement.
So you are raising Bitcoin, but you also mentioned before that it's based on Ethereum. So you mentioned before that you're using Ethereum, but you are raising Bitcoin. So why did you choose Ethereum over Bitcoin? I mean, I know there's Omni and Counterparty, but
Hmm.
what are the advantages with Ethereum, and yeah, how does that fit into your project?
One of the major reasons that we decided that Ethereum is our best option is simply due to kind of the uncertainty around the Bitcoin hard fork. And unfortunately, at the time, Counterparty, which we were considering running on, had not come out with a statement regarding which fork they would run in the case of a hard fork. And so we wanted to kind of steer clear of that drama and avoid any unnecessary uncertainty in the token value. There's also just so much more development currently happening on Ethereum versus some of the other platforms that do allow smart contracts. And so we eventually decided that Ethereum would be the best platform to run on.
And I mean, compared to Bitcoin, it's also cheaper, right? I mean, StarCredits are going to be like microtransactions in some cases, or just sort of interactions. That cost needs to be quite low, I assume.
Yes.
Okay, well, I sincerely hope that this is a show I personally enjoy. I do binge watch a lot of things on Netflix, and I still got to catch up on Game of Thrones, but I do love science fiction. I'm excited to see the show, and I hope it's something that I could really get into. But I do think it's interesting the way that you're using the token to interact. There have been other projects where simply they collect funds and then they might issue dividends or earnings for participating in the project. There's also Kickstarter, but it's difficult with that to issue a token that's interactive. You pretty much just get behind a project. So
Mhm.
I like the fact that you're crowdfunding, but you're also going to use it in functional ways. So was there anything else you wanted to add before we close out?
No, not really. I mean, kind of going off of what you mentioned about Kickstarter, is there are a lot of indie productions that decide to uh, try to crowdfund through Kickstarter, specifically in the film industry. But the problem that they always run into is what they are giving back to the people who are participating in that crowdfund. And a lot of the times, it'll be a T-shirt or they'll get producer credits, things that, for unfortunately for a lot of indie films, uh, they won't ever see a return on their investment. One, because they aren't creating a transmedia production; they're just creating a film, and there's just so much competition, so many eyeballs, that it's very hard to really hit the audience that you need. But it's also it can be very risky for people to participate in a crowdfund where all they are receiving is a T-shirt, because they're really their money disappears. And so you'll see a lot of those crowdfunds on Kickstarter, they don't really raise any money because there's not they don't ever see it back. And so that's one of the things we're experimenting with here is by issuing this token, the token does hold value, and that value does give you the ability to exchange your crowdfund donation back into from StarCredits back into Bitcoin. And so you can hopefully get your money back, or if, even in a better case, make money off of it.
And so, in some part, you're kind of the house of the casino, or you're the production company. I mean, you see a lot of films where, and it's gone down as of late, but they fund the film, 100 million, and then they get 120 back, and then the next one, 100 million, and they get 90 million. So it's kind of it's always a bet, but when you're vested as part of the house per se, then if it's successful, and then, like you said, the tokens are burned, so it becomes a finite resource over time.
Mm-hmm.
Then those people can share in the success. So
Yeah.
also, I just said we're late in the podcast, but I want to make sure transmedia means like a film or video or media project that is beyond just like a video. Is that kind of what that term means?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, transmedia is multiple mediums. So it's not just creating a film, it's also maybe creating a mobile application, it's creating social media storytelling, it's graphic novels, it's ebooks, it's all of those things kind of packaged into one. And the idea is that on each medium, you're telling a different story. You're not telling the same story, but by telling an individual story on each platform, they all help to tell a broader story that creates the brand, which is Back to Earth.
So thank you so much for joining. That was Clay Space from Back to Earth. And you can find out more at back2.earth. And like we mentioned, you need to get the referral link. So please subscribe to the newsletter and join the Telegram. Both of that you can find on the website. And look forward to a successful sale and at least hitting that minimum so we can see this project come to light. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gavin.